right, let's talk about one of the most successful and honestly one of the most dangerous pathogens on the entire planet, Staphylococcus aureus. This isn't just some run-of-the-mill bacterium. No, this is a superbug that has absolutely mastered the art of survival, evasion, and attack. Let's dive in. So here's the central mystery, right? About a third of us right now are carrying this bug in our noses or on our skin, and we're totally fine. So what's the deal? How does it go from being this quiet passenger to a full-blown, life-threatening invader? That's the big question we're going to unpack today. So first things first, let's get a proper introduction. Who exactly is this antagonist of ours? Here it is. This is its mugshot. Under the microscope, Staph aureus clumps together in these little bunches that look kind of like grapes. And its last name, Aureus, that's just Latin for golden. Why? Well, it actually produces this pigment that gives its colonies this really distinct golden color. And it turns out that color isn't just for looks. It's a kind of bacterial sunscreen that helps protect it from our immune system. Now, in the bacterial world, it's got a pretty famous cousin, Streptococcus. So how do we tell them apart in the lab? It's actually super simple, with a test called the Catalase test. You just drop in some hydrogen peroxide. If it's staph, it bubbles like crazy. Now you might be thinking, who cares if it bubbles? Well, here's the kicker. Our own immune cells use hydrogen peroxide as a weapon to kill bacteria. So staph making catalase, the enzyme that breaks down peroxide, isn't just a lab trick. It's a core survival tool. It's actively neutralizing one of our body's best weapons. Strep can't do that. No bubbles. What really makes this bug so incredibly dangerous isn't just what it is, but what it can do. It comes to the fight with a truly stunning arsenal of what we call virulence factors, basically a whole toolkit designed for causing disease. Okay, let's start with its first line of defense, which is basically an invisibility cloak. It's a way for it to hide from our immune system right in plain sight. So, how does this work? It's brilliant. See, our antibodies are supposed to be like little flags that tag invaders for destruction, but Staph aureus has this special weapon called protein A, and what it does is it grabs onto those antibody flags and flips them upside down. By binding to the stem part, it makes the flag totally invisible to our immune cells. The bacteria is completely cloaked. You know, this trick is so effective, we actually use protein A in our own research labs as a tool to purify antibodies. We literally stole its move. But what if hiding isn't enough? What if an immune cell finds it anyway? No problem. Plan B. Build a fortress. And this is how it creates its most famous calling card, the abscess. The bacteria pumps out this enzyme called coagulase. This enzyme finds a protein in our blood, fibrinogen, and turns it into fibrin. That's the stuff that makes blood clots. This fibrin mesh forms a tough, protective wall around the bacteria. So now it has a safe space to multiply. But that fortress also chokes off the blood supply to our own tissue. And that's why staph infections create those classic, painful, walled-off pockets of pus. But Staph aureus doesn't just play defense. Oh no, it goes on the attack. It manufactures and unleashes a whole variety of powerful poisons called exotoxins that can cause total chaos throughout the body, even really far away from where the bacteria actually is. And its lineup of poisons is insane. It's got enterotoxins that cause food poisoning. It has the famous toxic shock syndrome toxin, or TSST1. This thing is a super antigen. It hotwires our immune system, activating up to 20% of your T cells all at once. For perspective, a normal infection might activate like 0.01%. This is a full-blown immune system meltdown. Then there's the exfoliative toxin, which just chews up the proteins holding our skin cells together, literally causing your skin to peel off. And finally, it's got toxins that just punch holes in our cells, killing them directly. So, with an arsenal like that, what kind of damage are we talking about? Let's take a look at the rap sheet and see how all these weapons lead to a huge range of diseases. The list of crimes is long. It ranges from common skin stuff, like impetigo or boils, all the way to incredibly severe diseases. If it gets into your bloodstream, it can cause osteomyelitis, which is a deep, nasty infection in the bone, or it can cause endocarditis, an infection of the heart valves. And here's a key detail. In IV drug users, it almost always hits the tricuspid valve first. Why? Because that's literally the first valve the bacteria bumps into when it gets shot into the bloodstream from a vein. It's just a direct route. It also causes this horrible flesh-eating pneumonia, which often swoops in right after the flu has already weakened your lungs' defenses. Now let's look closer at the food poisoning, because it's the perfect example of how these toxins work. The key words here are preformed and heat stable. So the bacteria grows in the food, the classic potato salad or custard left out on a picnic blanket, and it just pumps out its poison. Then you try to reheat the food. That might kill the bacteria, but the toxin, it's heat stable, it survives. So you're not eating the bacteria, you're eating a pre-made poison. And that's why you get so sick so incredibly fast. And this just sums it all up so well. Look at this. One bacterium with 3 different poisons creates 3 totally different medical emergencies. You've got the enterotoxin causing violent food poisoning. You've got TSST1 causing system-wide toxic shock. And you have the exfoliagens toxin causing your skin to literally peel away. It's just wild. And that brings us to the final and maybe the most frightening chapter in this story. Its evolution into the antibiotic-resistant superbug we all know as MRSA. And the scale of this problem is just staggering. Today, more than half, let that sink in, more than half of all the Staph aureus infections found in U.S. hospitals are methicillin-resistant. This isn't some rare thing anymore. In a lot of places, it's the new normal. So how did it do it? How did it become resistant? The secret is one single gene called MEK-A. Think of it like this. Our best antibiotics, like penicillin, are basically a key. And the bacteria's cell wall has a lock that the key fits into perfectly. Well, the MEK-A gene is an instruction manual for building a brand new altered lock. So our old keys, they just don't fit anymore. The antibiotics are rendered completely useless. And here's why that matters in the real world. For a normal sensitive strain, MSSA, we can use standard workhorse antibiotics. But for MRSA, those are off the table. We're forced to pull out the big guns, the last resort drugs like vancomycin. And it's so important to remember, every single time we use an antibiotic, we're basically running a massive evolutionary experiment. We kill off all the weak bacteria, leaving a perfect competition-free world for the tough, resistant ones to take over. MRSA is the direct result of decades of us doing exactly that. And yet, after all this talk about genetic mutations, molecular sabotage, and superantigens, this quote brings us back to a really fundamental truth. The single best treatment for Staph's signature creation, that walled-off abscess, is often just a simple scalpel. Cutting it open and letting the pus drain out. Sometimes the oldest, simplest solution is still the most effective one. Which really leaves us with this final, pretty unsettling thought. Staphylococcus aureus has proven time and time again that it's a master of evolution. It is constantly finding new ways to outsmart our very best defenses. And so the real question is, in this nonstop arms race between us and them, are we evolving fast enough to keep up?